laugh because they mic'd me up, but I really don't need to be mic'd up. I've got a good voice. I might not have a very good hip, but I have a good voice. So this is only the 4th time I've had pants on in the last 5 weeks. So I'm just thankful that you invited me to come so that I could actually get a pair of pants on. I've been wearing shorts, so I didn't know whether I could get them on, but I got them on. I've got this like hematoma, which, so if I look a little deformed, that's what that is. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I think I'm thankful that when I come and speak in Akron, I always know people, so that's a good thing. People I went to grade school with, high school with, so it's something that most coaches around the country really don't have that opportunity to be around people that you know, they grew up with, and that's what makes this job special for me. So if I could coach it anywhere in the country, it'd be at Akron. Now there's some trials and tribulations with that, but overall it's a great place. Nobody can really say, I don't think, around the country that they coach at a school where they went, where they played, where their mother was a professor, where their son plays soccer, and my daughter goes to graduate school. So we've kind of bought into the university. The only one that really didn't go there was my dad. He played at Duquesne. And my wife actually has even taken a couple classes at Akron, some Spanish classes. So we put our money where our mouth is, that's for sure. And it makes it a little bit easier to recruit people when you have that opportunity to tell them that story. That's a unique story. And on top of it, all 5 of our assistant coaches played for me. So we've kind of kept it in the family up there. And that's why I think we've been successful. We've had success because people in the community have helped us. And I think that's a key thing. If you study the history of Akron basketball, almost everybody that's had success here is a local person. And almost everybody that hasn't had success here isn't from around here. So it's a unique situation. And you know, even Bob Huggins, you can argue that he's from around here, which he is, which is an hour away. So I'm thankful to be the coach. I had to laugh this morning. Stand up, young man. Yeah, come on, stand up. He said, when did you come to Akron? I said, I came in 77. He said, I was in 76 and I had your mom for class. And so I get that all the time. I was Faye Dambrot's son, who was the first feminist in Akron, and then I was LeBron James's coach. And so I've kind of had an identity crisis most of my career. So, and I'm going to tell you a funny story about my mom, since you brought it up, and I like to talk about her because she's no longer with us. But my mom had probably the first TV class at the University of Akron. So now everything's on the internet, so she was way ahead of her time even back then. And I was in the class, so I was sitting in the class, and the guy next to me is sitting there, and he really didn't know who I was. And he says, man, she's such a, and I said, you should try living with her. And so he turned about 8 shades of red, and I had to laugh. And the lesson to be learned by that is you should keep your mouth shut until you really know your surroundings, right? Because that can get you in trouble sometimes. But it's interesting, isn't it, how life is? And we talk about coaching and what we try to accomplish and why you coach. And you know, the sad thing about my job is that if I don't win, I get fired, really. You know, that's the gist of it, is we get paid to win basketball games. And that's sad in a way because, you know, what we're really trying to do is mold young people. But we got to try to mold them, but at the same time win games, and that's a difficult thing. And the difference between my job and your job is that my job is under a microscope. So everything I do, you know, people second guess and they judge you, and why did he play him? Why didn't he play him? Why did he take the last shot? Why didn't he take the last shot? And it's different for a doctor. You know, he's pretty much in his own little room, and all of you pretty much don't have to make those decisions in front of the public. But you learn to live with it. You know, you learn to just look yourself in the mirror and make the decisions that you have to make to make you successful. And you learn, you become pretty callous in the sense that you really get to the point where you don't care what anybody thinks, really. You just look yourself in the mirror and you move on. And that's pretty much how I try to go about my business now. So that's why whenever people say, well, what do you think about him as a coach? I never really comment very often, because we really don't know, you know, how good a coach somebody is unless you really go to practice and understand the dynamics of what they do. And you can ask David Blatt that. I never saw a guy go to the finals and get second-guessed more than than he has. And you face tough decisions, and I think that's the thing about this that makes it very, very difficult. And coaching young people today is different. We have 4 graduate assistants, which makes it nice, and I try to hire some young ones so that I can stay abreast with what's going through these young people's minds today, because things are different now than when I first started coaching, or we have Joe Siegfried here. When his dad coached, it's a lot different, than it used to be. So our job really is to make them better players, better people, and better students. That's really what we get paid to do. And a lot of times our guys don't have the home life that a lot of our kids have. So you have to have tremendous compassion, you have to have tremendous passion, and you have to understand the situation that these kids are in a lot of times, and you have to understand that you have to take them from point A to point B, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to do that. And I think a lot of people don't understand, what that really means. And then on top of it, if somebody gets in trouble, we get judged by it. If one of our players has an issue, just like one of our family members has an issue, the coach gets judged. And that's difficult because we don't really raise them. We're getting them at 18 years of age and trying to mold them into solid young people, and that's a hard thing. So again, like if you don't have thick skin and you don't have that callousness, it's a tough job. So what I want to talk to you about a little bit today, though, is the attributes of a great leader. And really, if you think about it, the attributes of a great leader is really the same thing as the attributes of a great person. And that's really what we're trying to do, I think, is understand what it takes to be a great leader and a great person. So I'm just going to go down this list a little bit that I kind of compiled over the years and I've gotten from other people. And I think it'll, if nothing else, it'll get you to think a little bit. And then I'm not going to talk that long because I know people always have a lot of questions, but I'm going to run through these relatively quickly. And I have a list of about 34. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through the ones that I think are pretty important. So the first one is you have to be a decisive decision maker. I don't know about you, but it drives me nuts when people can't make decisions. And when Jim Trussell was trying to get the, I got hit with 18 pitches in 1 year in baseball, so I think people are throwing things at me again. Get a little paranoid. But when Jim Trussell was trying to get the president's job at Akron, people said, well, he'd never really been a president. But my thought process with this guy's made instantaneous decisions, decisive decisions on a consistent basis over a lifetime of coaching. And I think, that's one thing that we have to do is, as a coach, you have to make decisive decisions. And I think as a society, we're not so decisive. So I think if there's a lesson to be learned, I think we have to become more decisive in our decisions. I know Lee Iacocca said that if you're 70% sure, you need to roll with it. Because if you don't, by the time you are 100% sure, it's too late. And I think that's what a lot of people nowadays, they cannot make a decision. And I think that's something that, to be a great leader, you have to be willing to make tough decisions. I think this is one that I think is really important. And if you think about it as a leader and as a person, you have to have sympathy, compassion, and loyalty. I've been fired. So I have tremendous compassion for people that lose their jobs, that go through tough times, that don't have the things that I have. And I think a lot of people are heartless. They just don't have that compassion for people and when they go through tough times. And so I try to treat my team exactly like how I would want to be treated. Now, they won't always tell you that on the spur of the moment. I could be very difficult. But for instance, I really wouldn't want to practice at 6 a.m. So I don't practice at 6 a.m. I really wouldn't want to study at Friday afternoon. So I don't make our guys study on Friday afternoon. I mean, to me, those are the things, as a leader, what you have to do is put yourself in the position of those young people and say, hey, would you like that? Would you like to be treated like that? Would you want to do those things? And I think that's one thing I think you have to be. You have to have sympathy, compassion, and loyalty. I think loyalty is another one of society's lost arts. We don't have much loyalty anymore. You look at the young people today, and I'm using basketball as an example, but they jump AAU team to AAU team to AAU team. They jump high school to high school to high school. right? They jump AAU teams because they have better shoes, right? They jump AAU teams because they're not playing right away. So they fight through they don't fight through anything, right? They just dump and go to the next place. And I think if you go back years ago, that wasn't the case. We fought through things. And so there's no loyalty for what people have done for you in the past. It's what can you do for me in the future. And I think that's one of the things that we have to teach people today is we have to teach people. I can use LeBron as an example. I think that's what separates LeBron from most people. Like after his freshman year or even before his freshman year, he could have gone and played at Oak Hill Academy or any of those places around the country. They all came after him, but he knew that he could get to where he needed to get from where he was, and on top of it, his friends were here. So he stayed loyal to his friends and his people and his community, and I think that's the same reason he's back today. So I think that's a rarity in today's society. So I think those are things that we really have to think about. Great leaders are fair, but they treat people differently. I think a lot of people now are in the cookie cutter business. You know, I'm going to treat him the same as I treat her, and her the same as I treat him, and everybody's a little bit different. You know, there's some guys that I really have to get on because they're not self-motivated. There's other people I don't have to get on at all. I just have to talk to get them to change their behavior. So I think, you know, the problem today with leaders is they think they can read a book, right, and that they should treat everybody the same, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think you have to treat everybody fairly, but everybody differently because everybody's motivated in a different way. And I'm going to run through these quickly. Discipline. There's a lot of people that really want to do a great job, but they don't have the discipline to do a great job. So even as a coach, you know, I told our guys, look, we've been here 11 years. We've won a lot of games. I said, look, this is what we're going to use as motivation now. We haven't gotten what we wanted. We've had opportunities. We've had a little bit of bad luck. We want to take those next steps in the NCAA tournament. But I told our guys, look, let's use this as motivation. We have a new president, right? We have a new athletic director, our 4th in 11 years, which is hard. Let's make believe we're on the hot seat. You know, even though I have 8 years left on my contract, it'll take a miracle for them to get me out of there. They'll owe me a lot of money, right, which is fine. If they want to get rid of me, I'll go sit and not do anything. That's fine, but no, that would drive me nuts. But we have to have enough discipline to be great. Even if you've been in a job a long time, you have to figure out ways to ignite that spark. And I think that's what great leaders do. They not only do it to themselves, but they do it for the people that work with them. Dedication, that goes along the same lines. I think this is one. When I took the job, a lot of people said, oh, it's a tough job. You know, you don't have a great budget. You don't have a great arena. You know, I've never really ever thought about the arena, as crazy as that sounds. I can't control that. I can control a lot of other things. So people say, well, were you upset you didn't get the arena? I never thought I was going to get the arena, so I never really think about it. I just move on. So my point is you got to hold yourself accountable with no excuses. Like there's no reason you can't be successful. You can control your own destiny, but you have to be smart enough to know what you can control. And I think that's where people make a mistake. Like, I don't worry about that arena. The arena would be great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think about it for 1 second. Because I think that I've got other things that I have that are more important to control. And these are the same things that you tell your people. You know, if you're not willing to hold yourself accountable, how can you hold your people accountable? Flexible, I think this is key. A lot of people, like I coach differently now than I did when I had Willie, for instance. Right? I'm much calmer, I'm more patient. I still can be difficult, but things change. You can't coach the same way now that you did years ago. And you have to be flexible. The game's changed. You know, there's different things that people are doing that, you know, that you have to adjust to. So if you're not a flexible leader, then you're missing the boat. You have to be able to make little tweaks. Now, my main tenets are the same. Like, we're going to play great defense. We're going to share the ball, right? And we're going to make them go to class on a daily basis, right? So the main tenets have never changed what we do, but we tweak them every day. So you have to be flexible. Strong work ethic, chip on your shoulder. For me, I don't know what it is, but I'm the worst male member athletically in my family. So my uncle was a #1 draft pick. My dad played on the #1 team in the country, and I got all my mom's genes, which they're not bad genes. They're just academic genes and not athletic genes. with that, you know, you just have to understand that you have to have a strong work ethic, and you got to figure out what motivates you. So that's my chip on my shoulder. I wasn't a very good player, so I'm going to make myself a good coach, and that's kind of what has motivated me throughout. So I tell my dad all the time, well, I'm not a good player, Dad, I'm a hell of a lot better coach than you are. So that's kind of what I do. You got to be secure. I think a lot of coaches, a lot of managers, a lot of leaders are insecure, right? So I try to surround myself with greatness. The better people I have around me, the more people that will tell me the truth about myself, the more successful I'm going to be. And again, I've had guys around me for 30 years. So Terry Wygant, for instance, played for me years ago. He tells me all the time how stupid I am. And that's a good thing because it makes you self-reflect, you know, and most of the time he's wrong. But sometimes he's right. It's kind of like when your wife tells you something, you really don't want to hear it at the time, but 4 days later you think about it and you say, yeah, maybe she's right. You know, not often, but maybe sometimes. Which leads me to another story. So I work a lot, right? So I had this hip replacement. I was home for 3 days and I was going out of my mind. I can't put my shoes on. I can't go to the bathroom by myself. And I'm around my wife and she's bringing me the wrong underwear and the whole ball of wax, right? And we're ready to choke each other to death after 3 days. I'm thinking 25 years of marriage going right down the drain, you know, me over one operation, you know? So finally we got that ironed out. We're back to good graces again, but it was a struggle to be home, I'll tell you that. Patience, got to have good patience. Stressing the process, which leads to the results. Like, we all want instantaneous results, but if you do things right on a daily basis, the results will follow. I mean, it's not rocket science, but that makes sense. But you have to do things right on a daily basis. The other thing that I've lived by is, because I'm from Akron and I want to be here, like, I've never thought about going to the next place, which allows me to do a better job in the place that I'm at. I take no shortcuts. We've had one junior college player in 11 years, which, if you look at most mid-majors, they've had a boatload. I like the 4-year guys because I can teach them how to play. It takes them a half a year to learn what we're doing. And so because we've been patient, right, and we've built it from the ground up with 4-year guys, we've been able to sustain our success over long periods of time because we don't have to reload it every single year. Even this year, we have 8 guys that have played for us. Most other teams have 3 or 4 guys that have played. We've had 8 almost every single year. So that allows us to be more successful. Sometimes when you build for the long term, you're better in the short term. And I think it's kind of like you hear the guys in football say, well, it's tackling and blocking, right? It's the same thing. If you stick to the basics, you're going to get the basics for the long term will help you be better in the short term. And I'm kind of running through this because I know we're I think the one thing that, has anybody ever heard Shaka Smart speak? So he's one of the best coaches in the country. He was with us for a couple years here. And one of the things he talks about all the time is spending time with your people, building relationships. I think that's one of the things that I've built my whole career on, is spending more time with our players, our people, building that relationship, because when things go poorly, right, you have to make sure that you have a relationship, because otherwise they'll run out on you. They won't run through a wall for you unless they know you care about them. And so spending time with them off the court, and that becomes a little bit more difficult as you have a family and you get older and you've done it for a lot of years, and you're 100 years old and they're 15 or 18 years old, and you have nothing really to say to them because they really don't want to hear what you have to say because you're old and crotchety and they're young and vibrant. So that becomes a little bit more difficult. So if you can't do it, then you have to make sure that your people do it, right? And like, I still do it. Like, I text them almost every night and I'll say, hey, how you doing? You need anything? And it's a 10-second text, but it's important, right, to keep your finger on the pulse. And I think it's the same in business. If you don't spend time with your people, you're not going to have success with those people. They're not really going to trust you. I think that's really, really important. Expect more from your best. Expect more from your best, and spend time with people that struggle, right? I think that's the tendency in life, is to spend all your time with the great ones and pamper them, right? And spend no time with the ones that are struggling and, you know, don't care about them, right? Because they can't help you. But the bottom line is, the great ones need to be told the truth, right? And the poor ones, they need time spent with them so that at least they feel like you've given them their best shot to have success. I think that's really, really important. I think that's one of the things that LeBron's faced throughout his career, and I use him as an example because he's an easy example, is most people have been afraid to coach him. Right, Willie? Would you say that's true? He really wants to be coached, but most people have been afraid to coach him, right? Because, hey, if he doesn't like me, then my $2 million a year job is out the window, right? But in reality, if you coach him, he'll respect you more, right? And your $2 million job will what? Will be safe. But, right? but the bottom line is the great ones want to be pushed, right? And the ones that struggle, they want you to spend time with them. And I think that's key. And then I'm going to do one more, and then we'll open it up for questions. The last one is that I built my program on really is thinking outside the box. Like, it's very easy to be conservative and, you know, just keep, you know, stay the same and keep doing the things. Like, I'll give you an example. We don't have a great arena, but we've got one of the best player lounges in the country. Right, so we were able to get private funding and build a really good players lounge and a weight room, and so that's something that only, like, we have a better players lounge in Ohio State. Like, we don't have as good arena, right, but we have a better players lounge. It is a people business, and you know, we have a stable coaching staff, but why would somebody go to Akron and not go to Miami of Ohio, or why would they go to Akron and not go to Toledo, or why would they go to Akron and not go to Kent State? I mean, you have to have things in you have to have a war chest in order to be able to recruit people. And by thinking outside the box, we've been able to do that. So, do we have any questions that I can answer on anything? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how do you, it's easy to be conservative, but how do you conquer the authority that are the naysayers?
The question was, it's easy to be conservative, but we run into naysayers all the time. I just put my head down and grind through. And you know, that's one of my strengths is also one of my biggest weaknesses, and that you find that in life, right? What makes you great also can kill you, right? So the best thing about me is I'm direct, right? Like, I'll tell you exactly what I think, right? And then I don't really feel bad about it afterwards, right? But most people don't like directness. But the good thing about it is you know exactly where you stand with me, right? Like, for instance, me and my wife, like, I'll tell her exactly what I think, and then 2 weeks later, she'll forgive me. and it sounds funny, but
you're a lucky man.
But you think about it at the office, right? And again, I try to do it in a nice way, but like, when you're direct, people don't view it as nice. Like, I may say, hey, look, we got to do better than that academically. You know, like, we can't afford to not make sure that guy's in class or that guy's work isn't done. And like, the academic people may not like that. But the fact of the matter is, if one of my guys come up ineligible, the academic lady's not hearing about it, the newspaper is going to say, Coach Dambrot's guy's ineligible. Right? So, like, I'm not mad at him, I'm just direct. So the question, to answer your question, is I just kind of put my head down and I'm direct and I grind through, and then I mend the fence later on. Yes, sir?
What part of a winning season does the coach play?
That's a really good question. So the question was, what part does the winning season does the coach play? Well, the first part of the question is, if you as a coach think it's about you and not the players, you're making a huge mistake. Because if I have bad players, I'm going to lose, right? It doesn't matter if I'm a better coach than the other guy. And nobody's that much of a better coach than anybody else, you understand? So if we took the 10 best coaches in the country, right, let's say Coach K, Calipari, Huggins, whoever you want, the 10 best, and put them in our league, right, and then take the guys in our league and put them in those jobs, I think most of us would be successful in those jobs, and I think most of them would have a hard time in our league. So to answer your question, some of it's coaching, 75% of it's recruiting, right? And then the other 25% is putting your people in position to be successful, managing egos and making sure they're successful. It's a good question. Yes, sir?
So now that you have a new boss, new athletic director.
Not yet. I don't have one yet.
It's open, but you will soon. When they ask you what you need to be to continue your quality performance or to get better? How do you answer that question?
Well, we need investment. So I think, you know, we've had severe budget problems at our school, so we've taken 10% cuts over the last 3 or 4 years. Now, keep in mind, we're one of the few sports that can make money. And so I played baseball, so I can make the statement, like, you know, baseball's not going to make money. So we have decisions to make when you have a budget crisis and a scarcity of resources, right? Where do we put our money?
You probably are the only sport making money at the university right now.
Well, maybe, well, I don't know if we're making, but we're making more than everybody else. I mean, so I mean, and it's not all about that. Obviously, you know, we've got a great track program. You know, we won a national championship with a couple different people. Like, they need to be promoted. But we have to run our athletic department and our school like a business. And I think you're going to see some of that. And we're going to have some big time growing pains over the next couple of years. But I would tell my boss that we need investment. It's just like your family. If you don't feed your family, they don't grow. And you know, we can continue to chug along and still win our share of games, but we're not going to get what we really want until we get investment. Yes?
From the University of Kentucky out, I just want to talk about the coaching experience and what you would appreciate more. Coaching a whole team that's a one and out, or coaching teams that are, you know, like you was talking about, developing and really getting to change the lives of.
Well, the reality of the question was, would I enjoy coaching the 1 year and outs or the 4 year guys? And ultimately, I'm going to answer this question. You're probably not going to like the answer, and I might not even like the answer. But the reality of it is, this is about winning. So even Coach K figured out, right, that if you don't take those one and done guys, you're not going to win. So to answer your question is, we do what we have to do to win. You know, within reason. We're not going to cheat. We're not going to take bad guys. If we, you know, we're going to try to do it the right way. But if it means taking a one and done, that's what it means. I'll take a one and done if you got one for me. If you can get him to go to Akron, I'll give you a raise. What's up, Willie?
Well, did you know when you hired Shaka Smart that he would one day be a good head coach or be as successful as he is?
Well, I was with Shaka 1 year as an assistant, so I knew I knew a couple of things about him. So probably the two most, to answer your question, Willie, the things that I knew, the two things that I was completely sure of was LeBron was going to play in the NBA, right? And that Shaka Smart was going to be a superstar if he got the opportunity. So he had the intellectual ability, he had the chip on his shoulder, the work ethic. So I knew that if he got into a good situation, now it's all situational. You can be great and be in a bad situation and you're going to fall on your face. But he got into a really good situation, so I knew he was going to be pretty successful. I'm jealous, so I've had 3 guys go to the Final Four that was with me. I've never been to the Final Four. That's not fair, is it? That's the way it goes. Yes, sir.
What are the character traits that you're looking for in the players you recruit, the ones that will set them apart from the pack, so to speak? I'm not even talking about athletic ability, I'm talking about character.
Well, the question was, what character traits do we look for in players that's going to kind of set them apart from other people? And that's one of the advantages we have, because all 5 of those guys worked for me or played for me. They kind of know what I like. So the character traits that I would tell you is, obviously, well, we have to talk a little bit of, we have to lump it into playing skill and character, because they're lumped in together. You can have great character, and if you're no good, you're no good. I mean, right? So they have to have good ability. So we look for guys that can dribble, pass, and shoot. We look for guys that have winning mentality, toughness. Guys that aren't very tough, they don't do very well for me. But I think that ability to play on I think guys that play in a good program, I think that's key. We may have a guy that scores 25, 26 points and plays in a bad program that doesn't win. We may pass on him. But we may take a guy like Josh Williams at St. V, who's with us now, that has played in a really good program, that's willing to make sacrifices in a really good program. Those guys are always successful for us. And I think those are the keys. But soft guys really are not my really cup of tea, right? Right, Willie? Like they just kind of wash out with me. And most of the time you can't make them much tougher. So that's the other thing. And then guys with a good brain I really value, and a good motor. So good brain, good motor. Bad motors usually don't respond very well. Yes, ma'am.
You talked about building relationships with individual players and characteristics of individual players. What are your tenets of building a team?
Questions about team building. We actually bring in a sports psychologist 2-3 times a year, and he helps us with team building. And I think that the biggest thing, what people have to understand, every guy that comes to our program wants to play in the NBA. I mean, it's unrealistic, but that's their mindset, and you can't really talk them off the ledge, so to speak. You have to manage it. But what I try to tell them, and what we try to tell them, is if you have team success, it doesn't matter how many points you score. Either you're an NBA player or you're not an NBA player. Like the one assistant I had, Charles Thomas, who's with me now, he averaged 11 points a game as a senior in college, but he played in the NBA. And we've had other guys score 25 points a game that just aren't NBA talents. They just can't. They're either too small, they don't handle the ball well enough. Either you're an NBA talent or you're not. It's hard to explain, but that level is so high. Like Shaq and I used to go into Chicago and watch high school kids play, and the high school coach would say that we're going to do the same thing with him as you did with LeBron. And Shaq looked at me, and we waited till he walked away, and we said, does this guy have any idea how good LeBron is? Like like Willie will tell you, it's so noticeable. And even the difference between LeBron and most pros is it's not even close, right? So it jumps out at you. So I don't know if I answered that question or not, but that's the best answer I have.
Thanks, Coach. On behalf of Heart to Heart Communications, just wanted to give you this small token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.